CSIS 2440 is filmed before a live studio audience.
So I built this little cheap program here for looking at cookies and sessions, okay? Right now, there's no protection, no cookies, no sessions. Everything's open and unlocked and anybody can access anything, so we need to fix that. So let me just show you the content we have. We have the home page that we're on right now, the secret files. These are secret government documents. The following individuals are known extraterrestrials. Then we got the secret shopping page where you can buy your tinfoil hats, your spaceship coffee mug, all these different things here. And then you can view your cart and then you can log out, okay? None of this stuff is working the way it should yet. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to do a quick little password thing here. Now, we're not going to dig into a database, right? We're just going to grab the information from the post and then do something with it, right? If we're doing that, we already have right here the form. It's already built and it has, now normally you would put here, instead of text, you would put password, right? And that will give the little asterisk when you type it in so nobody can see your password. I'm leaving it like text so I can see here in class what I'm typing, so there's no worry about typos, right? But normally you would put that as password. Okay, so what do we want to do here? We want to grab the username and password out of the post, right? We want to make sure it's set, and then we want to compare it to the allowed password. So how do we do that? So you're right, we do need to do that. We need to create a variable, or we can just grab the post, but there's one thing we want to do first, before anything. Remember, this is the home page here, and it's displaying this form, right? So right now you're seeing this. Well, what if they just come to the page fresh and they've never been here? Do we want to grab the post then? No, we don't want to do that, right? So we want to check to see if the button's even been pushed.
If the button is pushed, there'll be nowhere to run.
So we have right here, I have a submit button and I gave it a name called login button. So we can just check right here, if is set, the login button, right? That's post and login button, okay? There's no way that that button can be set, that post variable can be set unless somebody clicked that button. That's the only way that can exist. So that's all we have to check, just see if it's been pushed, that's it. Make sure you got enough parentheses there. Then in the event that that's been pushed, then let's dive in there and grab everything. So we can, now I'm not gonna bother with error trapping and making sure the fields are filled out or any of that stuff. That's beyond the scope of today. That's stuff you guys already know how to do anyway. We're just checking to see if the password's valid, that's all. So that's easy enough. In fact, let's just set up the credentials here. So we'll just say password is that's what I thought I had a minute ago. And the user is Beavis. Now normally this would all be done with the database and everything, and you guys have an assignment to do that. We're just gonna have one valid username and password right here, and we're just gonna compare it raw in the PHP. Okay, so now we can say if the post UN is equal to user that we have above there, and the post password is equal to pass, right? Again, I cannot stress enough. Normally you would do this pulling it out of a database, right? No databases today. So if that's true, then we're gonna allow access granted, right? That's the part that's gonna, how do we do all that, right? So let's just start here. We can maybe set a variable called granted equals true. We're gonna change all this in a minute, but this is a good starting point. Let's start by making granted equal false before we do anything. So that way there's no risk of them getting in accidentally. And then if this happens, we say granted equals true. Okay. Then down here, just say, hey, if granted is true, don't display this, just say welcome or access granted or whatever, right? Okay. So that means we have to convert all this to PHP, right? So normally what we would have to do, we'd say echo this form out if the access is not granted or whatever, right? But there's a way to do this that you don't have to do that. This is a new trick I haven't showed you guys. So I can open up a PHP tag and I can say if not granted, just like we normally would, right? Granted. And normally then I'd say echo all that crap below, right? But I don't have to do that. I can actually put a colon here and close out my PHP. And the PHP interpreter knows that this stuff, whatever I put between that and this, end if, semicolon, it will print this only if this is true. Pretty cool, right? Save you from having to convert that to PHP into an echo statement and everything. It's a slick trick. So let's just start here. All right, so we'll refresh it. And nope, don't do that. We want to start over. And of course we get an error. Nice. Oh, I forgot to open my PHP right there. See that? Yeah. All right, here we go. Beavis. And it didn't show the form when it logged in, right? Make sense? So we want to now have a message like access granted or something, which you can put an else in here just the same exact way. So PHP else, colon, close it. And inside of here, I can just say, yeah, we'll go with H1. I think I have a class called message access granted. Something like that, right? That's it. Okay, and again, because it's just raw HTML, I can use that little else thing with the colon and it should work just fine. So here we go, click that, and we'll go to Beavis, and I'm going to change that password right now because that's too much to type every time. And now it says access granted, right? Okay, now, but here's a problem. If I click on the home page again, goodbye, I'm not logged in anymore. Okay, not only that, but I want to make sure that once I've logged in, I can access the secret files, I can access the shopping, I can access all that stuff. Right now, everybody can access it. We want to protect that. So this is an issue for sure. Okay, but this basic message here works. The only other thing I want to do here is I'm going to put a message here if they put the wrong password in. So I'm going to say, at the end of that statement, if not granted. So up here we'll just say message is nothing. And then down here, we will just put right between the welcome and the form, we'll just say echo message, right? Does that make sense? So message will either be nothing or an error. Yeah? Okay, here we go. So when I refreshed it, it didn't break anything, right? It didn't show the error message or anything like that. But we type in Beavis and the password, access granted. If I try it again with the wrong credentials, access denied, right? Good, except there's no persistency. That is the whole reason we're here today, to persist data, okay? And I'm gonna change that password to just like pass, something simple, so I don't have to keep typing that long one. Okay, how do we do this? Well, there's two ways. There are sessions and then there are cookies. What's the difference between the two? Okay, let's put a little note page here. Sessions, cookies. Okay, there are lots of nuance and minor things, but I just want to introduce you to the idea here today. The big thing, that's the major difference, is this. A cookie is stored locally on your machine, right? Your browser, and your browser has like temporary files on your hard drive or whatever. A session is stored on the server, okay? A cookie, you set an expiration date and it just disappears after the expiration date. And then a session closes out when you close the browser, okay? So a cookie, you can use data persistency to put a cookie on the machine to show that they're logged in. However, it's not as secure as doing it in a session. So we're going to use a session. If you hear one thing today, hear this. Every time that you're going to do anything with the session variables, you must do session start in that page. That must be there. If you don't have that, none of the session stuff will work, okay? Now, session is just a super global. So what are some super globals we remember? Post, get, very good. What else? There's another one we've used a few times. Starts with S, ends with erver. Yeah, good job. Nailed it, yeah. The next one today is session, right? And there's also going to be cookie. That's another super global. But we can create a session here, and then every page we look to see if that session exists, and then if it exists, then we're great and we can go on. So rather than doing this, okay, we can actually do this. We can say session and give it a name like access granted or something like that, right? Is equal to true, oh, sorry, is equal to true. That's it. We just created a session variable that we are allowed to do because we did this. If that weren't there, we'd get an error. Okay? So now we have session granted is equal to true. And then all we're going to do here is check this. Instead of not granted, we're going to check if it's not set. Right? Okay? And then down here, same thing. Check if it's not set. Right there, if not is set. And that should be everything to just get this working on the home page. Just make sure. So home page doesn't look like anything broke here. And let's do the correct credentials first and log in. It says access granted. Now let's click around and then come back home. Still says access granted, right? So it's persisting now. Whereas a moment ago, when we came back to the home page, it took us out, right? As if we had never logged in. So that's basically all there is to it. Now, every page, we just have to check for that variable, right? Okay. Well, what I want to do is turn this into a function that's called isGranted. So it'll return true or false. Okay. And so all you got to do is we can just add a function file here, which I think I've already created one in my includes. I did not clearly because I was just in includes there. So we'll just copy the nav there and we'll call it functions like we usually do. And come over here and replace the nav with function called is, well, maybe we should put some PHP in there, huh? Function is granted. Okay, and then this is just simply going to return that variable, that session variable. Okay, does that make sense? So all we have to do here is just literally return session granted. Okay, that's it. That'll return true or false. Dig it?
Can you dig it?
Okay, so here now we assign the variable right there. Okay, we don't need this guy anymore. Okay, and then right here, instead of saying is set, we're just going to say is granted, right? So is granted right there. Okay, and then same thing down below right here. And there may be a little bit of an issue in the event that session granted is not set. So it's going to return false because there's no such variable. So we'll deal with that in a second. But let's just go check this out, see how it works. Notice if I go home here, now we're going to get the error, okay? And it's saying call to undefined function. Okay, that's a different error. I forgot to include functions. All right, so let's click the home button. We're still in, right? Because we haven't closed the browser. So let's close it. And then we'll open it back up again and see what happens. All right, so here we go. And in a minute, we're going to fix it to where I don't have to keep opening and closing. So there's that error I told you we're going to get, right? Undefined index. Okay, easy way to fix that. We can, in our function here, we can either say if it's not set, return false, or we can set it to false right here, right? I prefer to put it in the function so it's all self-contained. So we'll just simply say, if this is set, then return true. Otherwise, return false. Now notice this little trick. Return false. Don't even have to put an else statement. If this line runs, then it returns and you're out of the function, right? If it doesn't run, well, it has to run this. That's the only thing left. So I don't know that saves any processor time or that matters, but just know you can do that. The question was, does closing the browser reset the session, or what if I just close the tab? Let's test that and find out. Okay. First of all, let's refresh this, make sure that we don't get that error anymore. And of course, we have syntax error on line 4 in the functions file. And I do that all the time when I use this set. I forget the extra parenthesis. I do that all the time. Okay, so this is working. We'll put in the wrong stuff. Access denied. We'll put in the right stuff.
You got the right stuff.
And it says granted. We click around, come back home, and it still says granted. So now let's open another tab. And so we already saw if I close the whole browser, yeah, we're definitely logged out. But what if I close this and I try to come back here to local-host, still logged in, okay? But we close the browser and goodbye, we're logged out, okay? Let's log back in, we'll stay logged in. Let's go ahead and make the log out page work so we don't have to keep closing the browser, right? Because we're going to be needing to log in and out a bunch of times, okay? That's easy. In the log out page right here, at the very top, we're just going to destroy the session. Session destroy. It is violent. That's right, not unset. Destroy. Now, there's one other thing we got to do. What is it? I told you a minute ago. I said if you hear one thing, hear this. Yes, and you did hear the one thing. Nice. Session start. You cannot do anything session related if you do not have this at the beginning of it or in the file, right? But that's all there is to it. So we're home, we're still logged in. We click log out and it just goes to log out page, but now we're actually logged out, okay? Now, silly to just log out and say log out page, so why not just use the header function to send us back to the home page, right? So let's just get rid of all this junk, we don't need it, and we'll just do header. And what's the trick to get to the home page without having to type an index? Yep, a dot right there. Close that out, and we're done. Okay, so one last time, we'll log in here, Beavis, pass, access granted, log out, we're out, right? Really simple, okay? So really, you've only learned one new function, or two new functions, these two guys right here, and then the super global, which we actually did mention on the day that we looked at post and get a while back. We talked about that. So this is pretty straightforward and some simple, if statements here to check everything. So it's not bad. But now let's make it to where the secret files and all this stuff only show up in the event that we're logged in, okay? So first of all, I don't even want you to be able to view the cart in the navigation at all or the secret shopping cart page unless you're logged in, okay? So we can go into the nav file and edit that, right? That's easy enough. So if we go into the nav, where is that? Right here, okay? Right now it's just plain HTML, but we can just open something up at the top here. And what do you suggest we do to prevent, in fact, we don't really need the logout page unless you're logged in either, right? So we want to hide, let's just hide these two unless you're logged in. So what can we do? Okay, so you could use the ternary operator right here to say if is granted, echo this, otherwise don't do anything. That's a good solution. Let's just do that. Okay, so we can just do echo Mr. Ternary here, and we'll go, remember, question mark colon. I always like to set that up first before I do anything. Okay, so there's the actual operation right there, and we can put this view cart. So if it's granted, if access is granted, if that's true, granted, then we'll just do that. Otherwise, we do nothing, right? That'll hide the view cart. We'll deal with the logout in a second, okay? So let's see. We're logged out right now, I think, and view cart goes away. I click on, we got some issues here we'll talk about in a minute, okay? Why did I get that error? The function is granted is undefined. Yeah, I didn't include it in the secret files, right? In the secret shopping, it didn't include it yet, okay? But other than that, for here on the home page, that view cart is not there, okay? We can just grab this guy and stick it in there as well, right at the end, right there. And there you go. Nice, clean little ternary operation that'll show those or not show those, okay? But that's not quite everything, okay? What issue do you see here? I don't mind it being long, that's fine. There's actually a security issue. What does this line of code on line 6 do? It's either hiding or showing the navigation, right? They're part of the navigation. You can still go to the page, exactly right. Yeah, you can still go to the page. So we have the page called cart, right? if I just go right here, cart.php, I can still get into the page. Now we got that error because we haven't included the functions yet, but I can still get to the page. Okay? So let's go ahead and include right now, before we forget, let's put this in every single page. In fact, we'll put the session start everywhere as well. So now let's get rid of all these errors here. The cart page, I can still go to the shopping cart even though it's not in the navigation, right? Okay, the secret shopping page is this page here, not the cart itself, all right? I can still go to the logout page too if I wanted to, and they'll actually just do nothing, right? Well, I guess it'll redirect me, right, to the home page, but we were already logged out, okay? So we need to prevent those pages from running at all if granted is not available, right? So we can just have it redirect to the home page, right? Yeah, so if we go to cart right here, and all we got to do, just right at the top, if is or not is granted, then we'll just do a header. And we'll go to the home page. That's easy enough. We don't have to explain anything, right? Okay, that looks like everything we need there. So now if I try to go to cart, it just stays, doesn't do anything, right? We can do the same thing with the logout page, but it essentially already does that, right? The logout page kills a session that's not existing, and then it just goes home, okay? Okay, so this is better. So now let's log in, make sure it actually works. Password. And now the cart's there. I can click on it and see the shopping cart. Okay, great. Let's make sure we protect this content, and then we'll move on to some cookie stuff, okay? So if I just go to those two pages, secret, files, basically we just don't want to show some of this or all of this or whatever. Maybe we'll do a little tease here where we'll say the following are known extraterrestrials, but we won't show who they are, right? So easy enough, we'll just do that little trick I showed you a minute ago. If is granted, then we'll show all this stuff. Otherwise, we will not. I'll just end the if here. That's it. Easy, right? So refresh now. We're still logged in, so we'll just click on secret files. Sorry, I wanted to log out and try it. There we go, okay? If we're logged out, it doesn't show. Sorry, I forgot we were logged in. So let's do the same thing in the secret shopping. Let's just hide the products, right? We don't want people to know that you can get a tinfoil hat for only 10 or 100 grand, right? We don't want people to know about that. So we'll just do, I mean, we really just need that one little line right there, right? Secret shopping. And we'll leave the page there with the title, but then we'll just close it out right here. PHP and if. That's it. Refresh. We're logged out at the moment, so nothing shows. We go home, secret files, and secret shopping, and nothing's there, right? This one's a little bit of a tease, okay? We could hide the rest of it too if we wanted to, but it's just literally a matter of moving this line to where you want it, right? I could move it above the secret shopping page, H1, and it wouldn't show that. But that's really all there is to it for sessions. For an introduction, right? There's a lot more that you can do, and there's other things that you can do to make things more secure, but that's the basics, okay? So let's make sure that things work when we do log in. Beavis, password. Okay, we go to the secret files. It's all there. Shopping, view the cart, which we're going to build that in a minute, and then we log out. Okay, looks good. What questions do we have about sessions? Okay, let's use a cookie for a simple, silly thing first. And this is really the only thing I would use it for is this kind of thing, but the cookie is a little bit different the way it works. So when we get access granted to us, we can set a cookie right here that maybe has our name in it, so we can display our name on pages in the website, right? So right here, if the password and the user matches up, we'll just do set cookie. It's a function, okay? Takes in a couple parameters. First parameter is the name that you want to give the cookie. So we'll actually call it name, because it's going to be the user's name. Second thing it takes in is the user, or whatever the value is, which in our case is user Beavis, okay? And the third thing, there are a couple other options, but we're only going to use 3 of them, is an expiration time or date. So the typical way that people do this is you call the time function, which gives you basically a timestamp of right now, and then you add some number to it. So 3600 is actually 1 minute, or 1 hour, sorry, 1 hour. So this cookie will expire in 1 hour from when we set it. Okay. All right. Then once it's set, let's say on the secret files page here, we can say something like, oh, I don't know, we'll just write in here. We can say welcome Beavis or whatever, right? Something simple. So we'll open up a little PHP here, and we can say if, now this time it's going to be a little different. We want to check to see if it's set, right? The cookie called name. If it's set, then we can just say welcome cookie name, right? So we'll just say echo h1. Okay, that makes sense? Easy. So here we're logged out right now. Let's log in. But first of all, what page was that? The secret files. So we click here. Doesn't say anything about welcome Beavis or whatever. But now we can say Beavis pass, and we go to secret files, and now it says welcome Beavis with no space, right? So we'll put a space right there. You can actually see your cookies. You go in your browser, and I think it's in settings, and then privacy and security. There we are, cookies and other site data, right? And then you can search through them and see all cookies right here. See this? Click that. And this shows every cookie that's set on my computer right now. And then we'll go localhost, right? And there are 3 cookies on localhost right now. One of them is called name, and its value is Beavis right there, right? And yeah, exactly. It was created November 2nd at 1:44, and it will expire at 2:44. So how do you think you could unset a cookie? So it's literally just change the expiration time to the past, right? Just set it to expire an hour ago, right? So let's leave it the way it is first, and let's move this little message here. Where are we at? The secret files. Okay, so this will show if the cookie is set, even if you have access or not, right? If that cookie's set, that will show. So in other words, if we go here and I log out, but I go to the secret files, it still says welcome Beavis, even though I'm logged out, right? And in fact, if I close the browser and I come back, so when I come back after closing the browser, though, look, it still says welcome Beavis, right? Well, no, that cookie's there until an hour, right? It'll expire in an hour. Right, it's stored in our computer and expires in an hour. So all we got to do to get rid of that is when we log out here, we can just unset the cookie as well, right? So we can say set cookie, and we'll say it's called name. That's what we have to use the same name because we're just resetting the same cookie. Doesn't matter what the content is, and we'll just set it to expire 3,600 whatever's ago, seconds or whatever, and that's an hour ago. So now when I click log out, so let's log back in, and then we go log, let's just see that it's there. Sorry, this one, welcome Beavis, log out, go back to secret files, and it's gone, okay? Okay, so that's a decent use case for cookie. You can also store sort of like user preferences. Maybe they change something where you have options where they can change the font size or the background color or something like that. You can store those preferences, okay? You can also kind of use it for some shopping cart stuff, but the way I'm about to show you is what I prefer. And this is what you're gonna have to do for your final project, right? You're gonna have to do a much more intricate version than what I'm doing, okay? So what questions do we have about the basics of a cookie? Oh, we were gonna make a function called eat cookie. We can do that real quick. We'll just do function eat cookie, and we'll take in the name of the cookie, right? And then we'll just simply say set cookie name equal to nothing, and have it expire 3,600 seconds ago. That should do it. And then in our logout page, which I just closed, and we'll say eat cookie. Actually, we can just do name. That's the name of the cookie that we're trying to get rid of, right? And the logout, we're going to need to include our functions here. So includes functions. That should do it, right? We're just passing in the name of the cookie. So whatever we named it here in the index, we named it name right there. So whatever that name is, we pass that into our eCookie function right there. Okay, so that should do it. Let's log in, test it. Beavis. Okay, go to secret files. It says welcome Beavis. Log out. Yay, it works. Cool. That's a great function. I think that's cool. Eat cookie. All right, so we're going to keep that one. So here's the basic idea. What we're going to do. We have this add shopping cart page here, which you can't get to unless you know that that exists by typing in the word add in your browser, or if you click on one of these add to cart buttons. So let's log in, and we have the secret shopping cart. If I click this, these are just anchor links. Look down below on the bottom left of the screen. You can see where it's going to go. See that? It's going to go to this page called add and pass in the value 1 or the value 2 or 3 or 4, right? That's down the bottom left down in this area right here, okay? So what happens when we do that? It goes to this page right here. Now right now I just have a simple array that is storing all of that data, right? This is actually a multi-dimensional array, okay? So this products array right here, so let's just do a little sort of note here. Products bracket 1 is another array, right, that has that in it. Product brackets 2 is the value, right? So the value in each one of those is an entire array. So in other words, if I wanted to see the name of that says spaceship right here, I can just do this. I can just go echo products 2, which is the second array, and then brackets name, right? It gives me the second products element, and then inside of that, normally you would just say echo that right there. You would just echo that out. But that's just going to echo array, because the value is not just a string or just a number, it's a whole array. So we have to add this to give us which element of the array we want. In other words, I could do a var dump on that, and it would spit out this. Okay, so let's do that first. In fact, instead of a var dump, we're going to use what's called print R. Yeah, print R is great for printing out arrays because it gives you a little bit more human readable version of it. Okay, right? The echo does make it a little bit weird, yeah. Or the var dump, yeah. Okay, so if I just click on add to cart here, now it's showing me this second thing, right? It's showing me a var dump of that. That's essentially var dump, the print array. Print R is a var dump. Okay, so that's a whole array, and it's dumping out everything that's there. Name is spaceship, price is $9.99, right? Name is spaceship, price is $9.99. Okay, and those need to be changed. They don't match the actual prices. So $99, $1.25, and 42. So that should be $99, $1.25, and 42. All right. So let's print this out now, the actual value. So if I were to just say echo this, it's a whole array. You can't really echo that out. So this is what you get. Refresh it, and we get a array to string conversion, right? It's trying to convert this array, which is this whole thing right here, into a string, which you can't do it. So if I want to get pieces of this, I can say give me the nameth element of that array, and I could say also give me the priceth element of that array, and we'll dump a little line break in between. Okay, I can do that, and it says spaceship and coffee mug. If I wanted to do that with the first thing there, right, then that's name is tinfoil hat, and then price is $9.99, and I refresh it and I get that. Okay. If you wanted to do that in a for each loop, you just do a double for each loop, right? So let's do that real quick so we make sure we understand what's going on with this array here, and then we'll move on to the session stuff, okay? So for each products as product, right? So we loop through that, and that's going to give me that the first iteration, that the second iteration, that the third, and so on down the line. So each one of those, I want to loop through and display each piece of that. So product, I'm now looping through product, right? So as whatever, we'll just call it P, okay? So looping through product. So I go through and I get this on the first iteration of the outer for each loop. And then I'm going to loop through this whole thing in the second one. And I'll just echo them out. So I can just say echo P, which will print the name first, and then I will echo a break, and then I'll echo, that's all. So we'll just do it like that, okay? So what that'll do is it'll go tinfoil hat $9.99, and then space mug, price, and so forth down the line, okay? That should give us what we need here. Fresh. And now it did those, then those, then those, and then those. Right? Does that make sense? Okay, so that's the basics of what's going on here. I just want to make sure we understand that array right there before we go any further. Okay, so we have a nice little two-dimensional array. Again, for the record, in your final project, that's coming out of a database, right? Your products are in a database, and you're not, I'm just hard coding it here because I don't want to add the complexity of the database to make all this work. Okay, so what we want to do is somehow capture that they've clicked on a particular product, and then when we get to the view cart page, grab that information, right? Wasn't that kind of what we've already sort of done? We've got the cookies and sessions. We just need to store some values in a cookie or a session and then grab it on the view cart page, right? In this particular case, a session is a lot more clean and easy to deal with, so we're going to do that. So think about what happens here. When we're on this page, we click this add to cart button here, right? And it goes to this page right here, and it passes in this little parameter right here, p equals 1 or p equals 2 or whatever, okay? And so we get to this page and we now know which product it was. It was 1, 2, 3, or 4, right? So what can we do? What can I can, if I just, let's say I just want to store which product it is and show that in the shopping cart. We're not going to bother with the math that you have to do to add up the totals and quantities and all that stuff. I just want to, if I clicked on tinfoil hat and spaceship coffee mug, and then I go to my view cart button, I want it to just show those two things. That's it. And her answer is actually, that's a good one. We'll use that. So it's simple enough. We'll just say session, and we'll call it product, and we'll set it equal to the name of whatever number they passed in, right? So product, we don't know what that value is just yet. We'll deal with that in a second. And then we want the name, right? That's basically it, except we want it to be in an array so we can keep adding more to it, right? But let's start here. So first of all, how do I know which number to put here? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Yeah, it's in the get, right? We, right here, add PHP question mark P equals 2. So there's this variable called P that's in the get that we can get it right here. So we can just say if is set the get P, then we'll say, we'll just call it P, why not, equals get P. Right there, that's it. Else P is false or something like that, okay? But now we looked into the get and we've grabbed a number 1, 2, 3, or 4, okay? And we can just put that right there. So now give me the product pth element, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then the name, and stick it into this session called product. So now that we're almost there, right? If I go to the secret shopping cart and I click alien DNA, and we get tons of errors, awesome. Undefined variable product. Oh, I missed the S, nice, very good, thank you. There we go, let's refresh that. Okay, so now that's it's actually in the session. So we just want to show the session right here, right? So let's just start by dumping out this right here on the cart page, right? So let's just copy and paste that guy's name right there, and let's just maybe just echo that out for a minute, or we'll do a var dump. We'll do echo because at the moment it's not an array. So just echo that and click view cart, and now it says alien DNA. Okay. Now, if I go here and I click on foil hat and I click view cart, now it says foil hat. It's overwriting everything, right? We don't want that. But conceptually, do you see what's happening there? Does that make sense? Right? I just click on it here and let's say spaceship, spark plugs, and it adds it to the session. Then over here, I just spit out the session. Easy. But we want a bunch of things to keep getting added, right? So that's really easy to do in the add here. Right now, this is just a variable. Well, let's make it to where it's an array, right? So we can just say array, and we'll put that right there. So now it's an array with one element in it, right? Let's start there. And now we don't want to echo it out like we're doing. We want to do a var dump, right? Because if I echo, let's go back here, click alien DNA, and I click view cart, I get this string to conversion issue again, right? Because it's trying to make an array into a string. So we just can say var dump right here, or print R or whatever. We'll go for old standby that we use, dump, okay? And now when I click view cart, it just shows me I have alien DNA in an array. If I go tinfoil hat, now it shows that, right? Well, now we can just add to the array with every iteration. Every time somebody clicks on a button, we just add to it, right? What function do you suppose we can use for that? Array push, very good, exactly. Okay, so right here in the add to cart, we don't want to do an array push the first time, right? We want, because there's not an array yet. So we just see if the session is not set, then we set it, otherwise we do a push. Dig it?
Dig 'em.
So if it's not set, then we will create it. I think I got one missing parenthesis there, yep. Okay, so if this is not set, if the product session is not set, then we'll set it to an array that holds this value. Else, we'll do an array push, and remember the two parameters there, it's the actual array and the value you're pushing into it. But what's the array? Yeah, it's this guy right here. That's the array we're pushing into, okay? And then the thing we're adding is actually this thing right here. Does that make sense? Okay, so that should do it. That's basically what we want. And now if I do a var dump, once I add a couple things, so let's log out and clear everything. Come back in. Right now our cart has an error because product is undefined. We'll deal with that in a minute. But if I add tinfoil hat, now it shows that. But if I add the spaceship coffee mug, it's got both of them now, right? And if I add another thing here, alien DNA, now that's in there. So let's fix the problem where if the product's empty, we don't get an error, right? Again, we log out, log back in, and view cart, we don't want that error there, right, when the cart's empty. So that's easy enough. Just come over here. We're gonna probably want to copy paste that right there. And in our cart, we'll just simply say, if it's not set, oh, we need some PHP there, okay? If it's not set, then we can just say echo h1 class equals warning, your cart is empty, or something like that, right? Else, we'll do a var dump. Are we following what's going on there? If the session variable doesn't exist, then say your cart's empty, otherwise do a dump of the variable. Okay, so now we click this, and we got an unexpected echo. Oh, I did it again, man. I do that all the freaking time. Okay, there we go. Your cart is empty, right? So let's add something to it. Add a tinfoil hat. And now I go to view cart. And it shows that, okay? One other thing I want to do, and then we're going to make that display a little bit prettier. But on our secret shopping page here, when I click add to cart, it just goes here. We want to say something successfully added, you know, or whatever, keep shopping, right? That's easy. Okay, so on our add page, we can just here say, we want to make sure the get is set before we say successfully added, right? Because otherwise, if they just go there randomly, that'll be weird, right? So we just want to make sure that this is set. So we can just say if P, right? Okay, so we just say if P, then we'll just say echo product successfully added. You could put the product name there if you want to be fancy, but this is good enough, okay? And then we'll also echo out in that same if statement, so let's put some braces there. We'll say echo continue shopping A, and we'll go back to the secret shopping page, right? Continue shopping. Close the anchor, close the paragraph. and close our curly braces. That should be good enough for what we need. So let's just log out, clear everything up, log back in. Beavis, password. Okay, cart is empty. Secret shopping. Add the tinfoil hat. Product successfully added. Continue shopping. Yes. I want to add a coffee mug, and I want to add a spark plug. And there we have those three things. Okay. Now we can just loop through that and stick it in a table or whatever to display it nicely, right? Okay. And if we wanted to, you actually could, right here, this, in fact, you're going to need to do this for your final project. So let's clean this up with some curly braces here. And what we want to do is, additionally, we want to capture the price, right? So we'll make an array of prices, right? See what I'm doing? Yeah, so we're making two arrays here, one called two session variables, right? And so one is capturing the product and the name, and one is capturing the price and the name. And if you do them in the same order, then all the values will be synced up to where the first element in the product array matches the first price in the price array, right? So now if we do a var dump of this, let's just log out and clean it up again. Password, and we'll add tinfoil hat and this coffee mug, and now we have tinfoil hat. Oh, we're only dumping out the one array, sorry. So right here we'll also dump both arrays. Price. Now obviously dumping them back to back is not that useful, okay, but it does show that we captured the price for $9.99. And notice again that the 0th element in the first array is tinfoil hat, and the 0th element in the second array is the price that matches that, because we did them in the same order. The last thing that you'd want to do here, which we've got 2 minutes and there's no really reason to do it because you know how to do this, rather than just dumping these out, that's not a very good user experience with a shopping cart, right? On your final homework, your final project, you're going to loop through those arrays, print them out in a nice table. You're going to have a button that says purchase or whatever like that. Obviously no credit cards are going to be involved, and none of that part is required for your assignment. But you can make a nice little display and then click to purchase. One thing I'll give you a little warning about, if right now I go here and I've already got a tinfoil hat, if I click tinfoil hat again, it added it twice, right? Yeah, that will be a problem, exactly. So when you loop through that, what your output table would look like, it would say tinfoil hat, then what was the other one? Coffee mug, and then tinfoil hat again. Well, you don't want to do that. You want tinfoil hat there with a number 2 next to it, right? So that's something you have to work through. And the way you can do it, I'll just give you a little hint. On the add to cart page, check the array for duplicates, right? Okay, and then have maybe another variable here for quantity, right? And the quantity here is not captured up here, so you don't want to just put a number. You just want to put 1 for the first time through, right? So the first time you actually put the number 1, the second time through, quantity, and we put something here. What's the something that's going to go here? Well, that something's going to be calculated by looping through the product and seeing if it's already in the array, right? If it's already in the array, then you'll increment whatever the quantity is for that and then put that number there, right? That's a small hint, okay, to how you'll solve that problem. All right, any questions about anything we covered today? Cookies and sessions. Hallelujah, folks. See you in 2 days.